Hey, we're Thinking Man Games. I'm Tristan,
And I'm Gabe.
and we're here today to talk about some recent things that came out after this developer walked into GameStop and pretty much blew up on the manager there, talking about how GameStop selling its used games is really destroying the video game industry, which I thought was a little extreme, but I wanted to talk to you about it as
hmm
well.
Yeah, I mean, it's something we've heard before. I think the developer who's really kind of pushed this idea is Cliff Blazinski, and he's been doing it for a couple years, and he's kind of gotten on people's nerves, I think, a little bit because he's really um, maybe not come across as anti-consumer, but come across as so pro publisher that I think he just kind of rubs people the wrong way. The basic idea is that, right now at GameStop or any other store, Walmart, Target, etc., you have used games on sale that developers aren't getting a cut of, publishers aren't getting a cut of. Um, and with the budgets of games pretty steadily rising over the years, it's starting to take a cut into the profits of the developers and the publishers. But what I think is kind of the strange thing is that any developer seems to think that the right way to do that is to make money on a game twice.
Yeah.
Um,
No, I agree on that.
no other industry does that. I was thinking if there was a different scenario for that, how that would work. Say I buy two peaches from the store or something, I eat one of them, and then I like take a little bite of another one, and then I give it to my friend, and the grocery store calls up and says, "Hey, you have to pay us for that because he's eating it now." Uh, that does not make any sense.
And
Um,
people always use the used car analogy, which I was kind of, I understood that for a time, but then there was a point made by Colin Moriarty over at IGN. He was saying that the used cars kind of hurt, these manufacturers. Like it was a big deal for a long time for these dealerships and for these car companies, but then they realized we can sell our own used cars, so dealerships now take their own used cars back, and now they're making money on it again twice. Though they are doing that, so I'm wondering how that'll play out, in video game industry. It's not the same. It's not parallel.
yeah,
It's a
I
situation.
mean it's close, I guess. You can kind of assume that they could do something like that, but at the same time, why would someone go through all the effort of like going to Capcom's website or something and buying a used game when they could just go down the street to GameStop and find one?
Yeah,
And I don't think that they're going to go for that. Honestly, I think Nintendo. Obviously, it was kind of a PR speak when they said it, but the way that they avoid having used games sold is we make games that people aren't going to want to sell.
oh yeah,
Uh,
yeah. I was gonna bring that up as
yeah.
well. Yeah,
And obviously they were trying to kind of sugarcoat it to make it seem like their games, are never sold or anything. But um, it's very strange to me too, the way that if that's the case, and that he says that the sellback rate for Nintendo games is much lower than other systems because Nintendo games are notoriously overpriced for a long period of time. Like most games, you look at like a Metal Gear Rising, for instance, which it sold well. Um, it was a game that it didn't sell super well, but it sold well enough that they're going to be working on another one apparently and all that sort of stuff. And now, a few months after release, it's like $40.
yeah.
Now look at like New Super Mario Bros., the original one for the DS, and it's still priced at like $30, and that game came out 7 years ago.
Yeah. Well, I think they have a good point there, somewhat. I mean, like, technically, it's like, well, yeah, that makes sense. Make games that people don't want to trade in. But people are always going to want to trade in their stuff. They want to have
Yeah, there's always going
ownership.
to be a population of people that's going to want to, and personally, I don't. Like,
No, me
I,
too.
the only time I trade in a game is I trade it back to the store that sold it to me if they won't give me a refund and it's having problems. Um, I did that with Hitman a few months ago. That game,
Hmm.
um, because I feel that's kind of a little bit of revenge because they're not gonna they're gonna have problems with the copy that they sold me.
Yeah.
But besides that, I don't really like selling them back because I just think, oh, maybe I'll play them again. Plus, you get so little for them when you try to sell them.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
just not worth it so much of the time. But yeah, I get kind of livid when I see developers talk about this. It's the same thing with online passes and companies finally kind of coming around. EA obviously is not only getting rid of the online pass, but retroactively removing it from past titles. And I think that says something. Obviously, people are really cynical, and rightly so, about EA in the past. But I do think the company's trying to, create a better image. And it's kind of like what I talked about in my feature. Game companies don't care about you over profit. It doesn't mean that that they're mutually exclusive. You can do something good for the consumers, and they'll be more likely, support your products. And I think that says something, because when the online pass was coming out, there was a quote from it was for Battlefield 3. One of the developers said, "It's because servers cost money, and used games don't make us any money." But the thing is, if someone buys a copy of Battlefield 3, they say, "All right, I'm done with this. I'm going to sell it back," and then someone else buys it. It's not like two people have that copy of the game.
Mm-hmm.
One person does. It's just a different person than had it before. So it's really it's a fallacy, the argument they're trying to make.
Yeah, it's a complex issue. It's one that I keep going back and forth on, but then I keep coming to the idea that it's going to solve itself, I think. Because this idea of ownership over stuff, it's not coming into digital stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
People
and
aren't
as digital,
making these claims
as digital
for
gets
Steam
more
games.
prevalent, you're right. As digital gets more prevalent, there's just not going to be a way to share stuff, and it's kind of a weird way to solve the issue, I guess. But honestly, I'm kind of coming around to digital. Like, I've only bought a couple XBLA games, just because, to be honest, sometimes I didn't feel they were the best value, but that's coming around now. But I still like my retail games as retail games, unless they're free, as we get with some stuff. I like having them on my shelf or whatever, and I don't sell them, so obviously I'm not who they're going after. They're going after the person who's selling their stuff back, who are more likely to get digital, and I think that's actually probably a similar group. But yeah, I think that problem, it probably will help to rectify it. But whenever I see something like this come out from a developer, it makes me want to support them less, because I feel like they feel like we owe them something, and
there's a crazy sense of entitlement.
Yeah, and from developers, and it's like, I understand that you're working really hard on this, but you can't take it out on people who want to play it. And honestly, bad timing for sure that we're doing this today. But I think Phil Fish was kind of going into some rough territory there. I don't remember the exact quote, but he was talking about people saying that his game was too expensive or something, and Fez was not. It was like $10. It was not too expensive, but he said, I should be charging you guys $80, you bleeping ingrates, something like that. And I was like, dude, you need to not say something like that. I just watched Indie Game the movie last night, and
I still need to get around to that.
Yeah, it's really, really good, but only one developer. Well, like 2 developers in that movie did not come across as being total jerks. Ed McMillan seems like a really good guy from Team Meat, and Jonathan Blow, who I know is a prickly guy, he in the movie didn't really come across that way. But some of the other guys from Team Meat, or the other guy from Team Meat, really kind of did. It's kind of the way they frame it too. I don't think any of these guys are probably really mean people. And everyone I've talked to, like, who's met Phil Fish in person, said he's a really nice guy. But I think it's just
They're 2 extremes. It's when he gets angry, he gets angry, or like
There's a point in the movie where Phil Fish loses it. He screams at the camera about, like, he had kind of a right to be angry, but it was basically that they were about to go on at PAX, and his old business partner had to sign a contract, or they weren't allowed to legally show the game. And he was freaking out, waiting for it to happen. But yeah, I know people can get frustrated, and they think, well, the consumers need to do this, but you can't tell us that. That's kind of this whole. Maybe it's the problem with indie development, is that these guys try to act as their own PR groups, and like, you just can't do something like that. The reason why I think it doesn't happen very much with, AAA development is that these companies, they have, dedicated PR people who screen everything. You never saw Blazinski really say something like this that often with, when he was still at Epic. Occasionally he did. The Gears 3 release comes to mind, how he kind of freaked out at people for giving, I think it was Eurogamer, gave or Edge maybe, gave Gears 3 like an 8, and he freaked out about that and kind of was talking about it. It's better than this game in every way, but even then he didn't go after, consumers directly. I think it's just a very weird precedent to be setting.
There's this weird diva-ship among like certain developers or people in the industry, which it's so strange to think about. Take yourself out of the industry, take yourself out of reading these sites and magazines every day, and you're like, what the heck are they getting upset about? It's the same kind of thing where people get kind of confused at celebrity meltdowns or stuff over movies,
Yeah.
Where they're acting. It's supposed to be fun, you know what I mean? It's this kind of strange, ugly side to what's supposed to be a fun pastime.
Yeah, and I think I guess it's their livelihood, and obviously that's really important to them. But it's just about who they're talking to and the way that they're doing it. And I think it's important to remember, especially these indie guys. Some of them I don't think can really afford to do this. Like Phil Fish, he said he's gone. He's not gone.
I think he'll go back. Yeah,
he'll come back. But it's like, okay, what are you now?
Yeah.
Who are you now? Who gives a shit about Phil Fish if he's doing something besides video games? Like, he was a video game developer, and a really good one. And I think, the gaming community, even those who don't like the guy, they can respect him as a game developer. But outside of that, it's like you have to start from scratch. And why would you want to do that if you can just take some steps to avoid it? And obviously, with his situation, I do think that Marcus, whatever, the Annoyed Gamer, I think he was out of line. No one has to comment on anything they don't want to. And I think that's just... That's not even like an industry thing. That's just a plead the fifth type of thing.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think some people maybe shouldn't have Twitter, or they should let someone else read their tweets. Because there are some people who I've been like less likely... I think I'm less likely to buy their games because that Hideki Kamiya from Platinum Games... He comes across as, if you read some of his tweets...
I don't follow him, or I haven't seen anything of his.
He gets angry, like, really rude to people. He's doing, The Wonderful 101. I think he was on Metal Gear Rising before that, and obviously someone at Platinum's doing, Bayonetta 2, but I don't believe it's him. But there are just some people that I think they really shouldn't be either on Twitter or just tweeting stuff out so quickly. And I thought maybe Phil Fish would have an easier time with it because he obviously kind of took this step back from Microsoft, and he was going to be doing the whole self-publishing thing, whichever platform he was working on, but I don't know.
Yeah. Warren Spector comes to mind as well for people that are outspoken, more towards journalism than to general consumers.
Yeah, and... he's trying to... Was he the one who had the whole "We need a Roger Ebert"?
Yeah.
And the thing
that wasn't a tweet either. That was a full blown.
Yeah, that was like a blog post
he wrote. Yeah.
The thing about him though is like, obviously he's gotten a lot of respect from his peers within the industry. But look at the last couple games that he put out.
Epic Mickey,
and then
which
Epic
I liked, but 2. I know a lot of people don't.
A lot of people like really hated Epic Mickey 2, and it's like, what kind of respect do you want for this?
Now.
Yeah. And it is like, there are some people who I think have made more of a living talking about game development than developing games, and but there is a place for that. Like, obviously Cerny comes to mind. He's consulted on a lot of games, and he's making Knack, which I think a lot of people think is going to be the weakest launch title for the PS4.
Even though I'm excited for it, I'm always the odd one out on those kind of things.
It just looks like a PS2 game with modern graphics to me.
That's why I'm excited, but I can understand why people are crazy about it.
Yeah, I might get it down the line if it drops in price. But anyway, there are guys like that who have a place because they have insight, and they still have experience with development enough to talk about it. But then I don't understand why people keep pointing the finger at journalists and feeling like something's our problem or it's our doing. And occasionally I think it is. I think that there's the situation a few years ago, like that journalists and PR award ceremony where like the free PS3s were being given out to journalists, and I think that's totally unacceptable.
I hadn't heard about that.
Yeah. I don't remember the exact backstory. It was a couple years ago, and one of the people involved, like, she was a journalist, but she had worked for Crystal Dynamics before, I think, and she had like written a really good. She got like a free PS3 or something from them,
Oh,
and she
okay.
said that she had never done any like reviews for Crystal Dynamics stuff, but then someone found that she had or whatever. And I don't remember what company she was working for.
Yeah, that seems a little sketchy. I can
Yeah,
understand
and something like that
that.
happens, but the majority of the time it isn't, and it really, I don't know. Phil Collar had a thing about it. I think it was just a tweet that we should really hold publishers accountable when we're as journalists, but we should also hold the audience accountable, because a lot of times this finger pointing goes on where they say, you're getting paid to write this review. No, we're not. We're not getting paid by publishers to write a good review. No, we're not. I remember when I was at CGR, I got accused of being paid by EA to write a good review for Mass Effect 3. First
That's
of
so
all,
funny.
fuck you. I bought Mass Effect 3 with my own money. And second of all, no, like, that does not happen.
I wish I was paid for reviews. Being paid off for reviews. No, but wow, that's a funny accusation to me.
It's, man, it makes you livid because it's the same type of thing. But these, developers who are going after consumers, and then me as a journalist, having this weird kind of rock and a hard place scenario where I don't want to come across as being some elitist or someone who gets angry at like little things, but also wanting to be able to defend myself because I don't think that's fair at all to make an accusation like that. It really isn't. I'm just trying my best to voice an opinion. I think every once in a while it comes up with Revision 3 or Rev 3 Games rather. Few months ago when Dead Space 3 came out, it was a whole thing because they had a pre-roll before their video started for Slim Jims, and it was sponsored by EA, and then Dead Space 3 got a 5 out of 5, and people accused them of being paid off, but, in reality, Terra didn't even know that ad was playing before the, before the video
ad
went out.
stuff and editorial are generally separated for that very reason. So that people don't get that impression when they're reviewing a game.
And I think a lot of people got maybe got this cynical after the whole Gerstmann incident all those years ago. But the thing is, it's not like every company lives in a bubble and didn't see that happen. I'm sure a lot of companies put another degree of separation between the two after seeing something like that because they did not want to have an issue like that happen again. And we do owe something to our readers because they trust, they want to trust what we're writing.
Yeah.
The most valuable thing we have is our word. We need to be trusted. But at the same time, if we haven't done anything, if we haven't been proven to void that contract of trust between the writer and the reader, I think it's completely unacceptable to start pointing fingers.
I agree. All right, well, that about wraps it up. But we kind of took a tangent there.
Yeah.
So I guess it's more of like developers yelling at people episode. So thanks for listening, watching, and we'll see you next time.
See you, everyone.